Nick, during the presentation, you define green bonds as iconic financial market. Can you tell us more?
Yes, I mean, I think you can see the green bond growth, the growth in green bond issuance as iconic for a number of reasons. One, it's been very rapid, 11 billion in issuance in 2013, up to 167 billion last year. So that's very rapid growth. But it's not just the scale of growth, it's who it's involving. You've got the issuers, whether that's corporates or countries or development banks. You've got the investors demanding green assets. They really want to align their portfolios with Paris Agreement. And also you've now got securities regulators coming in. But the real reason I think they're iconic is because it's helping to really sort of push this agenda of being clear about what we mean by green. There are market standards there, and it's actually becoming the basis for what's known as the taxonomy in the European Union context to really help markets be clear about what is green so we can more rapidly move capital in the direction of climate action.
I noticed the taxonomy was a key word that raised during the discussion. Another aspect that was very interesting in your presentation is the role of central banks.
That's right. I think that's the very surprising development. I think 5 years ago, really no central banks were thinking about climate change. They thought this was something purely for environment ministers. But now they're recognizing from a number of reasons that it's part of their day job. Central banks are there to look after financial stability. And there's a recognition that actually long term, the damage of climate change will have financial stability implications, both for the system as a whole, but also potentially for particular assets, stranded assets and so on. So I think they're realizing this is a core risk agenda. The other is actually central banks can also help smooth the transition. So there is a new network for greening the financial system. This is not something which has been set up by Greenpeace. This has actually been set up by central banks. 34 central banks are coming together to work out how they can better monitor the risks, but also scale up green finance, how they can actually be purchasing. We just talked about green bonds, and we heard here the Swiss central bank is actually buying green bonds for its portfolios. So they can be a market actor as well as actually looking at the overall system.
There are big changes going on, right? Can I ask you for key messages, take-home messages for our audience?
Well, I think one of the things is that we should be very, very clear that we're on an upward wave, that actually financial mobilization around climate action is actually really going in the right direction. I suppose the issue is it's not fast enough yet. It's not fast enough yet. One of the dimensions I think is particularly important now is to think about the social dimension, that as we make this transition to a low zero carbon economy, how are we going to deal with the so-called just transition in terms of the implications for workers and communities in high carbon sectors, and also actually ensure that the transition, all the positive growth in renewables and energy efficiency also helps deliver inclusive growth. So that's where I think we're putting sort of climate action in the context of sustainable development. So I think that's really one of the big areas.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Nick. It was a real pleasure.